Y'all, I'm so excited. Editor Michaela is back today, and we are about to dive into that nitty gritty. If you haven't listened to part 1, make sure you head backwards and do that so that you are at the same place that we are at now. So part 1, we talked all about basics, what a first meeting with a new buyer is going to look like for me and for you. And now we're about to dive in to look at what this buyer rep agreement is, what a contract with a buyer's agent looks like, and why it's important that you need one. The last question I want to ask you before we go into what a buyer representation contract looks like is, are there any important players that will be helping you make this decision?
Ooh, what would those important players be?
We just want everybody in on the ground floor. So if your parents are going to be helping and advising you, we want to get them in the process as early as possible.
Gotcha.
If you have a sibling, if you have anybody that is going to have any decision-making ability or sway over your choices, we want them to understand completely what's going on, and we don't want them showing up at the final walkthrough and having a ton of questions and making you nervous before you're signing. I love a dad at an inspection. That is not a popular opinion, but I do. I think it's helpful, especially
100%.
It's your first home. They've done this before. They might have knowledge that, we don't have, and they get to talk to the inspector too. But we want them involved in the whole process, not just showing up there, because it's hard to play catch up and it's going to make your process smoother.
Yeah.
So anybody that's going to be involved, we want them in now.
Gotcha. I definitely say my parents for sure, because I'll talk to them about everything.
Oh, good. And that's good to know too, because if they're not local, if they are local, they should come to showings.
Absolutely.
For sure. And if they are not, we have FaceTime.
Yes, all of the things.
Yeah, exactly. So we want them involved. We don't want to be like in the background. We want everyone involved so that they can ask questions at the appropriate time and they can be encouraging and a good support for you. And I just want to equip them with the same information that you have so no one's nervous.
Got
Does that
it.
make sense?
Perfect.
Okay, so now we're going to go over the residential buyer tenant representation agreement. So this is something that essentially before we get to this part, you are going to sign what's called an IABS.
Okay.
So that is an information about broker services. And that basically says a couple things. But in this, the most important thing I think is you want to know who is representing whom. So in the state of Texas, everybody must represent the seller until you have a agreement with a buyer rep. So that would be me in this instance. Remember, I do both, but we want to know who is representing whom, because you want to know who's in your corner and who is kind of directing your best interests. Without an official agreement, I would be representing the seller, because that is what I have to do as a realtor.
Good to know.
Yeah, so that I think is one of the most important things on that form. So you would sign that first, and you would ask any questions, and then we would get to this. So this part, basically at the top of it, it talks about the parties. So you would have your name, and then there is my broker. So the broker is the one that owns the contract.
Okay.
Even though you're working with me. I'm the broker's associate. I'm licensed a little bit differently than a broker is licensed. The broker holds my license. So, and they also handle all the money. I will never touch money.
Okay.
Never, ever, 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 ever will I touch money. So that kind of goes down and it just says, okay, where are you looking? So I've filled out, where you're looking. And then you have the start date and an end date. And you can fire me at any time. If you decide that you do not like me, you need to know this, because that happens, and I can also fire you.
So,
yeah, and that's important.
So I'm not obviously there's you get paid on the back end kind of thing, but I'm not paying you, but I can still be like, we're done. This is over.
Well, and compensation is in here.
Gotcha.
And I think that's one of the most important questions to ask. So typically my fees as a buyer's agent are 3%, and as a listing agent, it's 3%.
Gotcha.
Typically, the seller is going to cover the majority or all of the buyer fee and the seller fee.
So that makes sense why you're in the seller's corner.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Now, sometimes sellers do not want to cover the full 3% for the buyer's agent. It is unlikely, but it does happen. If that happens, I will let you know before we even look at that house, because you will be responsible for whatever they are or are not paying to get to that 3%. So say they do, the seller has said that they will cover 2.5% of my commission, then you would be responsible for that 0.5.
Gotcha.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I would let you know immediately, because that's part of your budget. So that's...
Yeah. That makes sense.
So Texas recently said that realtors are no longer allowed to say, if we're buyer's agents, that we work for free, because we do not work for free. Nobody.
Right. Yeah.
I got to feed my kid.
Oh, yeah. No, that totally makes sense.
But a lot, that was happening.
Yeah.
And part of the MLS agreement, we agree between brokerages to share information, which also means there must be some type of compensation offered to that buyer's agent. That's just part of the agreement in order to participate in the MLS, which is the multiple listing service where we list houses.
Well, then.
Super important.
Yeah, that's good to know.
Yes. So that is how the payment works. Then we're going to go down to the client's obligations. That's you. You are looking in this place. You are looking in this market. You are going to allow me to represent you exclusively. And I will do my very best, brokers' obligations, to work for you and negotiate the best possible deal for you.
Heck yeah.
So exactly, right? The whole point is I am here to facilitate your wishes.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm here to educate you. I'm here to give you options. I'm here to tell you this is likely to happen, this is not likely to happen, but even if it's not likely to happen, you could ask me to write this. You know, I've had people who want to offer something that just doesn't backed up by numbers.
Mm-hmm.
I am obligated to offer whatever they want. That's my job.
All right.
So that's what I'm doing for you. So we kind of go down who is representing whom, and that's important. Now we get to intermediary. So I am at a RE/MAX brokerage right now, and it's rather large.
Okay.
So intermediary, there's a few different ways to do that. But by clicking this box in paragraph 8, it says that I can show you listings that people who are also in my brokerage, meaning they have the same broker, are selling. So that would be an intermediary status because the broker owns the contract.
Okay.
So we would have one broker with two broker associates representing both parties.
Okay.
The other part of intermediary is I can show you one of my listings, and if you wanted to purchase that, I could work both sides. And at that point, I just lay out the facts and let each party decide what's best for them and execute upon their wishes. And the seller says this, buyer says this, and it becomes it's a little bit different because it is one broker and one agent. If you're uncomfortable with that, the broker can always assign somebody else to one of the parties, depending.
Gotcha.
So that is a box that if it is checked and you want it checked,
Gotcha.
I think you'd want it checked because you want to see.
That broadens your net, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
And we want a wide net.
Yep.
So that is what that is. And then competing clients, this basically says, if you like this house and I'm working with Susie Q and she also likes this house, I'm probably going to show it to both of you if both of you request to see it.
Mm-hmm.
And whoever's offer wins.
Okay.
And you might not even both offer, but you got to know.
We would both know that.
I would tell you.
Okay.
I would say, I am showing this to another client.
Gotcha.
Just to let you know. And I would give you all the same information. Because
Gotcha.
it's all the information I have, and that's my job.
Gotcha.
So I would be giving you the same information. I wouldn't be saying, hey, Susie Q, my other client put this in, and if you want to win, that would be wrong. And I would not do that.
Now, but you could say, like, could you tell us that we're both bidding on it?
Sure.
Okay. But you wouldn't be like, this is how much.
No, I can't.
Gotcha.
I cannot do that.
That's the
So
line.
I owe you all of these things.
Gotcha.
And one of them, well, loyalty is the favorite one that I owe you. But privacy.
Right.
And that's not Susie Q's business,
Fair.
So we want to keep everything above board, and we want to disclose. So then we go into confidential information. I also owe you confidentiality. So of course, not saying anything about what you're offering, what your finances are. I know that's a lot of people's, they get really nervous around numbers and finances. I only need to know what you can spend and what you're comfortable with. But I do see probably more on that pre-qual letter than, your best friend would. Because she's not helping you buy a house.
Fair.
I just need to know what you can do. So, but I'm not, other than that, I don't really care.
That's fair.
Here's where the fees come in on paragraph 11. And that kind of talks about the 3%. And then this talks about, an F, if you were to do new construction, what happens then? So that's a whole nother, it's a whole nother ball of wax. We're probably not going to be doing that. There's just not a ton of new construction where you're looking. But if there were, we would absolutely talk about that and the differences between those things.
Gotcha.
So then we're on to the next other. There's nothing other. There's a protection period. So if our contract expires and I showed you something and you wanted to put an offer in on it and you found somebody else to do that, this contract is protected for 30 days.
Gotcha.
Well, that's what's written in anyway. Where are we going to close? Where are we going to fund? These are the counties. And then we talk about the addenda. So what else is involved in this? So there's a lot of options here. I always use the IABS because we have to. There's also a general information and notice to buyers and sellers, and we could go through that. We will go through that too. I always put that in there. And then I always have the for your protection, get a home inspection.
Oh, yeah.
And we'll talk about that in our next.
So many people were waiving them. That blows my mind. Sorry.
Makes me sweat.
This is my first time buying a home, but I can't imagine waiving something like that. So
you want to do your due diligence because no surprises. You're always going to have maybe like some little issues, bumps along the road, but you don't want that to be, oh my gosh, the floor doesn't function or the roof is caving in. These are not good. So I would like you to order an inspection. You don't have to. Please do. Now, if we're looking at homes built before 1968, we are also going to do the piece of paper, actually it's a couple of pieces of paper, that talk about lead paint.
Okay.
So if the house is built during a time period where lead paint was used, you can have tests done and see if there's lead paint there.
Gotcha.
And that could very well happen, in Denton because there were plenty of beautiful homes there built before 1968. So that is kind of a high level of what the addenda would be. Then if you're in a flood area, we're of course going to give you that information. Wire fraud, also very good to know. If you're going to wire anything, you need to verbally get wiring instructions.
Okay.
And you need them written. And you want them to match and confirm because once wire fraud's real, and once you've wired something, it is gone.
That's wild.
It is scary. I
feel like you'd want to quadruple check all of that stuff.
Yes. 1,000,000,000% yes. Once you pick the property that you are going to purchase, you will also sign a form for me that says I am able to talk to your lender, to the title company, and to anybody else who is involved in the deal openly about the process and where we are in it because I am representing you. But that does have the, we just want to keep in line, there's a lot of laws surrounding buying and selling property. So we want to be above board on all of that. Then there's special provisions. I'm not putting anything in there. Additional notices, we can read through these later. It talks a lot about, are you having a survey done? Are you sharing fees? All sorts of stuff. And then you sign a date.
All right.
That is the basic overview of what you would sign in a buyer rep agreement.
Wow. That's there. This is like such a personal process. It's
It really
so
is.
interesting. Like how, I don't know, how deep into my life, like you would come. And like, that's just crazy.
My husband's always like, why do you feel like, I mean, you need to go to lunch with your clients all the time? And I'm like, because we're friends now.
Right? It's like, they're going to invite me over to their house when they move in.
Yes,
like,
exactly.
That's wild.
So that's another reason to be careful about who you pick and who you choose to represent you. Because if they don't have a communication style that works for you, your process is not going to be as smooth.
Yeah.
So it's really important.
So obviously, like, we met through work.
Sure.
What is a good process for people finding a realtor? Like, should you always use someone that's recommended to you, or like, what's a good process to go through? Should you try out multiple people? Okay.
Interview them.
Okay.
Absolutely. So absolutely interview them. I love to work off of referrals. That's my favorite way to get business, because people that I like working with most often refer other people that are going to enjoy the process with me because they've been referred. You can also just call, a local brokerage. You can walk into a brokerage and you can just ask. Say, hey, I'm looking to buy a home in this area. Give me 3 names.
Nice.
Then
what are good questions to ask a realtor to like find out?
Excellent question.
If they're good.
Yes. So I would ask for recommendations. I would say, can I talk to 3 of your past clients? Can I have their phone numbers? Can I have a quick phone call? And then I would ask those people about the process. What did you enjoy? What were some speed bumps? How were they handled? How did you feel at the end of the process? Things like that. I'm sure they're going to send you their clients who loved working with them, and that's fine. But that's a good way to kind of, get to know it.
Yeah.
And then when you're at that first meeting, like kind of what we just did, you're going to get to know their communication style, and you're going to know probably right away.
Right.
Like, do you feel like this is somebody that you trust and would like to work with or not?
Yeah.
But a lot of people will ask how many years someone's been in business.
Okay.
You can absolutely ask that. But I think a better question that's going to get you more information is, how many transactions do you do on average a year?
Okay.
How many have you done this year? And do you typically work with buyers or sellers or both? Because if you're talking to somebody that maybe they've been in the business 30 years, but for the past 5 years, they've only done 3 transactions.
That's kind of a red flag.
Why?
Yeah.
I mean, and they might be great, but you want to ask why, Or if there's somebody that's, I'm closing 30 houses a month, that's probably somebody who is a team lead.
Okay.
And I'm a team lead, but I am not going to count my buyer's agents as my deals if you ask me, like, how many deals have you closed? So if you hear a really high number, like 1 a day, how are they spreading themselves out? And it's probably they have people helping them. So you want to talk to who you would be working with.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's really, ask them what happens if they need help.
Okay.
Ask them how close of a partnership they have with their broker. My broker, love you, Mark. He will answer my phone call at midnight. I mean, some brokers never answer phone calls.
Wow.
So if I have an issue and I need help, and I do a lot of transactions, so if I need help, I mean, we're having a real issue. But you want to know that they have somebody to talk to. They have access to somebody who knows what to do to help you. And that's what you're looking for. Because really, this process is about building a team of people that you trust and that understand your needs for this purchase.
Gotcha.
So that's kind of, does it make sense?
Yeah, that makes total sense. And I think those are great questions to know to ask.
Exactly. The other thing I like to ask is, what is your best form of communication?
Ooh, okay.
Do you have hours? Some people will answer their phone at midnight. I won't.
That's
fair.
I've learned.
I've learned that people have a couple glasses of wine and then it's 10 p.m. and then they have a lot of feelings and they call. And then if that call waits until 9 a.m. in the morning, feelings have calmed and you're not, it's more professional. And you're going to get, don't call me at midnight.
You got it.
So, but that's good to, that's something you want to know too. Some won't work weekends.
Okay.
I absolutely work weekends because that's when people are shopping for houses.
Right.
Now, that's when you're looking at houses. That's when you're showing.
Yeah.
I would also ask, do you use a showing assistant or are you going to be the one showing me homes? It's really what you want.
Right. But it's good to know.
Right. So occasionally, if I'm out of town, I will use a showing assistant or one of my buyer's agents. But I like to be with my clients when showing because I want to see their reactions, their responses, and I want to see the house too.
Yeah.
Just to kind of, okay, this checks all the boxes. Because some things might look really nice, but they don't match any of the things you said you wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
So if you told me you wanted a house with a ton of character, and then we go to a brand new, fresh home, and you're like, I have to have it. I'm like, okay.
This is not what you said.
And that's okay, but
Right.
are we changing directions here? And why? And that's okay, but let's think through because at the end of the day, I just want you to get what you want.
Right.
And I want you to know why you picked it.
That's fair.
Because then you'll be happy.
Yeah. That's a big buyer's remorse to have.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
So,
right? It'll be so sad.
Oh my gosh.
So sad. So these are just some things, to keep in mind when you are interviewing agents and when you're deciding who to work with.
Mm-hmm.
And then if something goes off the rails, you're going to ask for a termination. And that's okay too.
Mm-hmm.
I have fired clients.
Yeah, man.
Yes, I have. I've not been fired, but I've absolutely fired clients. And it's just because it wasn't we weren't a good fit.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like maybe there's somebody who could do a better job and who would maybe understand their needs more.
Gotcha.
And that's what it's about. It's all relationships, it's all people, and it's about having a good experience.
Yeah, man. Well, all right.
I know. Thank y'all so much for hanging out with me and Editor Michaela today. I am just so excited. Thank you so much, Michaela, for letting everyone come along on this adventure with you.
Thank you for inviting me on this adventure with you.
I love it. I'm so excited. So we're going to have a couple follow-up episodes. We are absolutely going to have 3 of us here. We're going to bring a lender in just so we can talk through the lending process. If your lender's available, we would love to do that. Mm-hmm. But if not, a lender will do. And we're also going to go through, we're going to look at houses. And we're going to have some fun there. Or I'm going to give you my little checklist. We're going to do that. And then we're going to talk about, each step of the process until Editor Michaela gets keys.
All right.
Does that work for you?
Works for me.
I'm excited.
Me too.
Yeah. Good. You should be. This is a fun process. Mm-hmm. So stay tuned. If y'all have any questions or I didn't cover something fully or you were thinking something when I was talking 8 miles a minute, let us know and we will absolutely answer those questions during one of our next episodes. So thank y'all so much. Do not forget to like, subscribe, follow, tell a friend, because I swear you and your friend are probably going to buy a house at some point and y'all need me. So share me. All right. We'll see you next time.